Ready to reimagine our learners and rethink our thinking about their education. Our job is not to prepare our children for an unknown future. It is to believe in their potential and act as such so they can create the future they desire. The learners do not belong to the future. The future belongs to the learners. This is the foundation of our work at Jamse Gasol. Preparing the creators of the future starts with an internal shift in the adult's mindset. Our education aligns every child's potential, developmental needs, and aspirations with their talents and abilities. It focuses on a daily processes of learning rather than preferential outcomes. It nurtures each child's unique competencies, skills, and pace of growth. And it fosters student learning and expression in all fields of study: academic, social, emotional, artistic, and vocational. Like a gardener appreciates every seed's unique qualities, needs, growth, contribution, our garden approach values every child and their talents. We deeply focus on fostering an understanding of interdependence and responsibility to nurture our children as an individual, but not make them individualistic. Our local government has asked us to scale our efforts by creating 5 similar communities in the state. We have been invited to create Jamse Gasol in neighboring Bhutan. We have also created educator resources to support teachers and children around the world, also available online. Through our effort, we do not intend our children to confront the hostile and unjust world. Rather, we entrust them with the task of building a kinder, more peaceful, and compassionate world for all.
Thank you, everyone, again, joining for this discussion. And so my focus will be today on 3 essentials, what we call the 3 essential educating heart, mind, and a body. And this is basically the philosophy of Jamse Gasol Children's Community. We have been working on this for last over 16 years, I think. And before we go into this, and this is I guess, slightly different from many of the education system which exist in the world. So it will be different because we are not just focusing on educating the mind, but also heart and body. And one of the important thing that I believe that any time when we think of reimagining of education, and it's the important is it begins with the internal shift of the mindset in the educators, policymakers, and family. So this is, I think, without the making an internal shift inside the adult's mindset, I think it will be impossible to bring a change from inside, the outside to the inside. But change really has to begin from the inside to outside. And no matter what, like how much money or resources we spend on changing the external infrastructure of our education facility, if the internal shift is not made before, and I think then that becomes a big problematic. So I always emphasize on the real change has to start from these 3 important adults: educator, a policymaker, and a parents. When we talk about educating whole child, how do we do that? And there are certain points that we, as an educator, that we always have to remember that whenever we are with children, whenever, whether you're inside a class or when you're outside the class, and it has to be basically our second nature. Whenever we think of a child, that we have to think this, So the nurturing mindset, kind of the gardener's mindset, is that the most important thing is as a gardener, if you do the gardener, maybe not the commercial farming and a gardener, but when you are organic gardener, then number 1 is that we have to believe that every plant is a unique. So these are very important points that I would like to share with you, that how do we educate whole child? How do we give the holistic education to raise the holistic child, so that every the plan is a unique. We should not have one perspective about one kind of the expectation that every child has to be like this. And this, if you are like this, then you are smart. If you are not like this, then you are not as smart, and which is our whole education system is right now doing. And number one biggest challenge is, again, I say, to reimagination of education has to begin with the internal shift of adults' mindset. Are we able to make that internal shift is an important question. So that has to start from our internal mental shift. That has to start. The first thing is anybody who comes to your school or you educate, you have to believe and you have to respect that every child is unique. They all are different. And that is a quality of every child. Like any plant, the gardener grows vegetables or the flowers, but he or she would believe that every plant, every flower is unique in itself. Same thing that we have to believe when you educated children. And second, we need to realize and we need to believe is every plant has a different needs, which again, we don't do in our education system. We do not encourage an education system. And we have so many excuses of why we cannot do that, and we don't do that. And if you are the good gardener, and you will know that every plant has a different needs. And some plants need a lot of sun, and some plants, they don't need a lot of sun. And some plants, they need a lot of water, and some, they need less water. So you will see that every plant has a different need. So while educating child, one of the most important, important thing for the educator is to, if we can able to see that every child is unique and every child has a different needs, and that is a second point that we emphasize here at the Jamsegasa Children's Community. Because every child has a different needs, so every child has a different contribution. Some child would be very good at the math, and of course we need to recognize that. But some child may not be good at the math, but they will be very good at the dance and arts and sports. So why we need to, push and force them to be same needs and the same contribution. The world is going to be so boring if we try to produce every children when they come to our school. So there are different needs because they have a different needs, and because they have a different needs, so they will have very different contributions. And that is the third that we need to remember. And the fourth is every child has a pace of growth that is different, intrinsic and natural. So now you see why I'm saying this. And for example, I'm going to give you at the Jamsegasa Children's Community in our school, if one child takes 3 years to complete or 3 years to complete their 10th standard, and we allow that child, we recognize effort, not the outcome. We recognize not the result. We emphasize on effort. If you are sincerely putting effort, the 100% effort is what we expected from the child, not the 100% result, not the 100% outcome of what you're doing. So if one child will say, I will need another year to complete this grade, and we would give that, and we would encourage that. So every plant, some plants, they grow very fast. Within maybe 3 weeks, the vegetables or some vegetables grow really fast and you can eat it. But some vegetables takes a long time. So because they're unique, because their needs are different, because their contributions are different, because of that, their pace of the growth is also different. And it is an intrinsic and a natural. There's nothing wrong with that. And we should not impose from outside saying, oh, this science says this, by this time you should know this. And who are we just telling it, by this age you should know this, by this age you should know this? Who are we that telling by this age they should know? I think it's a completely wrong we're doing in so many different areas today in this world in the name of education. Yeah. And then we have to remember the childs are not like a dead log. It's alive, it's a full of life. And we need to work with them. It is a partnership that educators, parents, and the children is a partnership because they are full of life. We cannot impose of that. We cannot actually, go and do so much from outside. And we need to believe, and they are full of life. They are, when we understand they are full of life, even that we can sometimes see their naughtiness, even when we can see sometimes when they make a certain, naughty things, we could see beauty in that because that is a life. It's supposed to be like this. They are not supposed to be like compliant and just, that everything that's doing what we expected is not the child. If we are thinking of this as a nurturing, this as a basically a growing a garden, then we need to also understand this. And they has a potential of regeneration. See, the dead things when we say, what so much you do is an education system is, oh, you should become this, and this is the what you can become successful and you can make a lot of money. So we tell them, and we basically in all these years in education, we are basically carving everything from outside, and by the time they become what they expected, you see their life is basically end, and there's no life in that kind of children if we put so much from the outside. And the last part is very important, I think, is this is the 3 lessons that we talk so often here as a Jamse Gasal. And the first one is like, first, all these years that we emphasize on building a strong foundation to stand on, building child's character, values, and attitude. Every small things we do it matters. You don't have to think. Sometimes we as educators, okay, we think, okay, let's build amazing, put $1 billion or $1 million and build something really big, and that will bring the change. And I don't think that is a huge project is really matters. What really it takes is to grow the strong and amazing human being and really happy and amazing future adults. What it really matters is the small things we do in every day as a child, a bamboo grower. So as I said, it takes persistence, patience, and faith. So now, and this is what we call the 7 elements of a growth, the fundamental elements of the growth. And these are something, what we do in the Jamse Gasal is instead of having a class 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so we will have a class of interdependence, and we will have a class of equanimity, we will have a class of gratitude, we will have the class of generosity, we will have a class of love, and then compassion and responsibility. And these are the, in order to nurture, in order to educate a holistic child, and this is what we do, emphasize a lot in the first 5 years. Of course, it is like, continue till they, as long as they are here with us, but we emphasize a lot on this. These are the fundamentally a root of strong roots of educating the whole person. I think this is some general questions that I normally get is people saying, what do you mean educating whole person, and what do you mean educating a body? So I normally tell that we have an amazing carpenter here, and we have also amazing painter here. And every day, one of my responsibility when I visit them, and I just always surprised and I'm amazed with what they can do with the 10 fingers. It's something amazing. And when I look at them, and I feel, all my fingers are totally uneducated. I don't know what I do with these fingers. I don't really produce anything from my fingers. And this is amazing, So when we think about educate, we think again of a very small part of our brain educating, and we are not thinking of anything else. But most of the people in this world, I believe, like me, our fingers are, not educated, are very totally uneducated. And I see somebody who sings so well, who is an amazing singer in our community we have, that I feel my throat is uneducated. I have an uneducated throat. And somebody who's amazing dancer, we have amazing dancer. When I look at them, I feel I have an uneducated hip. And somebody can play amazing football and they can do so many things as dance. I feel I have uneducated feet. You see, even looking at my own life, I feel I have my fingers are not educated, my throats are not educated, my hips are not educated, my feet is not educated. Basically, 95%, more than 95% of Lobsang is totally uneducated. And I feel sad about that. And I wish that, I do have this potential. If you have to write education, I should have educated my fingers. I can do so many beautiful things with my finger. I should have educated my throat. I can do much singer than, right, my present singer. I can, right now I sing people just, they need air, what you call air plugs. I say, too noisy, and if I move a hip, everybody laughs, nobody claps. I wish I have an educated hip. So when I move, everybody will look at me and enjoy. I can make people happy. So these are the things, I think. So the importance that we really, really, really emphasize here is we as an adult, we need to change our mindset. When we educate a child partially, sometimes we succeed and sometimes we fail as an educator. We all know that. When we educate a child partially, which is like the current education system all over the world, most of the education system, if I'm not wrong, we are partially educating a child. And when we do that, sometimes we succeed and sometimes we fail as an educator. But when we educate a whole child, we prevail, we succeed, no matter what outcome. And we need to emphasize that, they might fail in a math, but if we educate whole child, and they will always prevail and they will always succeed. They might fail in our classroom because of the classroom expectation. They might not fulfill our educators, teachers' expectations, our parents' expectation, and they fail in the education system that that expectation. But if we educate a whole child, and they will succeed in their life. So this is what I feel so important for us to think.